Hey everybody, so today I wanted to talk to you about something that's really important. I was going through my preps and I realized there is one critical thing that I'm short of, and if I'm short on it, you may be short on it too. So I really wanted to talk to you about this today. During the Great Depression, there was so much shortages. I'm like, my goodness, there's so many shortages now. I know we've got inflation. I know we've got shortages in every country. And I think it's going to get a lot worse. So going through my preps, what did I discover? I discovered that my pet food was the one thing that was lacking. So I do have like some cans of tuna put away. I have some raw cat food. I do have some bagged cat food that I have put in Mylar bags. Dog food, I primarily go with, the raw meat and things to put together. So then I started thinking even more. What did they do during the Great Depression? Because they had pets then. Not everybody, but they did have pets then. So let's do a little bit of history to know where it went. So in 1860, we had the very first dog bone produced. I had no idea it was that long ago. But by 1895, wealthy Americans were able to afford to obtain some of these, what they called dog bones at the time. But it wasn't until 1907 that a second entrepreneur came out, and he developed the common shape of what we see as a dog bone. Everybody recognizes it and knows that's a dog bone. So, but in 1922, that's when these guys really put it to the forefront, and that is when they considered the first actual commercialing of dog food, and that was just those two dog biscuits. So that was in 1922. Really, commercial dog food did not even set in until 1950. And when you think about that, you never really put in perspective when it came in. I was shocked to see that it was actually 1950. So, little history lesson there for you. So, during the Great Depression, we know that people had dogs. We know that people had cats. I have dogs. I have cats. So, what did they do? Cats, they primarily let them eat the rodents. That was more common practice. Today, our pets are, inside more. The cats are lounging around, curling up on your bed, whatever. They're not so much out catching rodents as they were back then. But they also fed them some other things too. Like it wasn't uncommon to have fish. If they went hunting at all, there might be some meat, even a little bit of table scraps. So what did they do for dogs? Now, dogs had to rely on us more than cats did because they did not have to go out and catch mice. Dogs were treated a little bit differently. They did also get table scraps. And ironically enough, did you know that they actually gave their dogs a lot of carbs? They were giving them whole chunks of bread, stale ends, the end of the loaf, anything that was left over. Dogs would have the bones off the table if they were not reused in a soup or stew. In fact, there was a stew that was made specifically for dogs, and it had to do with the president at the time. So it was called Hoover Stew. And now, Hoover Stew was primarily made up, it had onions and fried potatoes, a lot of broth was thrown into it, and hot dogs. Hot dogs, yeah. Back then, I believe the hot dogs were called Trump hot dogs. I believe that was the brand name that they had. I'm sure there may have been some homemade type of hot dog going in at the time, but they would chop them up really small. And then combined with the potato and onion, that was something that they had plenty of. They could grow it very easily, pretty much year round, unless you were in an extremely cold place. And so that was something that they had available they could make up. Now, another stew that they would make up, or not even really called a stew, but again, the potatoes and the cabbage. They would throw those together, and that would be another form of food for their pets. So really thinking about it, they were being very creative. Now, cabbage obviously in a lot of different growing zones won't be able to be grown, but for the bulk it could be grown, or possibly maybe they did something indoors. I'm really not sure on that. I couldn't find too much information on that one. So moving on from there, they also were hunting a lot. Now, I know as somebody that likes to give my dogs raw meat, that whenever we have meat left over, we like to give that to the dogs. So we have different end cuts that are specific for dogs, specific bones, and there's certain body ailments that we don't necessarily eat, but our dogs will. Along with that came fishing. And fishing was really nice because they could take the fillets for themselves, and then they would scoop out the inside or the heads and again make another stew. And this can be brought in, and with all that extra water adding the flavor, it kind of built to it to help keep the dogs interested, and even the cats for that matter. They also had to put in a lot of extra lard because they needed their animals to have some weight on them. Now, I did notice that as I was going through, and I really wanted to post some photos that I found. Unfortunately, I could not use them due to copywriting, but I noticed that the dogs really did not look skin and bones. I think the people looked thinner than the dogs did. So that was kind of an interesting side piece that I wanted to share with you, and I really wish I could throw a picture in. So they would go hunting, the farmers or the men would go hunting, and one of the most common things that they would use for their animals is rabbits. Now, I was not aware of that till I started doing some extra research on it. Now, the rabbits could be cut down and used for meat for not only the family, but they were more plentiful then, and it was something that was easily used to making dog food. And that got me thinking, what about today? Could we not raise rabbits to help put aside food on for our dogs or our cats? Could we not get fish and put some aside? Now, I know I've been trying to do up some canned food, my own canning, I should say, and putting it in the freezer. And that may be an option for you. It's something you can put away. I am going to be investing in an additional freezer that's primarily going to be pet food. Now, I know I shouldn't throw all my eggs in one basket, putting it in the freezer. That's why I do have stuff in Mylar bags. But I want to do kind of like a supplemental, because if I have food for us, I need food for them too. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of things you could do to kind of help supplement as we go down this path that's really not certain. There's so many little factors out there, and if you were hunting, or if you have the ability to hunt or to raise certain things that could help feed your pets, even if you are doing a rabbit, you could take the meat and the insides can be used to feed your dogs. They don't need to eat what we eat. A lot of times you can take a big stock pot and you can throw a lot of stuff in it, or you can even get a cast iron and do it outside if you don't want to do it inside. And you can cook a lot of stuff down with adding maybe some rice, wheat, barley, corn, onions. These were all things that were used during the Great Depression to help feed the animals. Potatoes, not sure if you really want to do that in today's time, but these are all great ideas. They did use the wheat, barley, the corn and onions quite often as well into any of the stews. So that's something to think about. If you are able to get, some fish heads, the innards, if you get deer, you've got all your organs and stuff that are really great for your dogs. It makes a beautiful coat on their fur. It helps improve their teeth quality. We have German Shepherds. It's really great because helping prevent hip dysplasia. And I tell you, not to be so disgusting, but an animal that eats raw meat, their poop is amazing. It turns more like a white instead of the normal color, and it breaks down into the soil naturally, and it's virtually does not need to be cleaned up hardly ever. So some things to think about going along that line. I've thrown a lot of information at you pretty darn quick, but I thought it was really important, and I was so shocked at what they used. And how can I use it today? Simply by taking rabbits or ends of meat or anything you're not eating and putting it away. If you are cutting up some steak or some pork or whatever it is that you're cutting, and you actually take the fat pieces off, you could start putting these little things away, or chicken pieces, whatever, putting them away, and you could stick them in a bag in your freezer until you had enough to put it in a stock pot or into a cast iron pot and get it cooked down with some other good stuff, and then you would have easy dog food you could put away. So I'm hoping this helps you with your pet, because I know I've been stressed about mine, and I know the times are getting tough and only going to get tougher. If you like this video and found some value, I would greatly appreciate it if you would give us a thumbs up. And you guys have a really great day. I really appreciate you watching. Take care.